Before we begin, if you enjoy hidden history, forgotten technologies, and, well, the secrets powerful enough to be erased, make sure you're subscribed. Because stories like this don't show up in textbooks, and honestly, they don't like being remembered. What if I told you that a heating method so effective, so efficient it kept people alive through Arctic winters was later restricted, regulated, and quietly removed from civilian use? Not because it didn't work, but because it worked too well. Today we're uncovering what some call the Viking heating hack, a system born of necessity, perfected through war, and later deemed too powerful for everyday people. And once you understand how it worked, you may start asking uncomfortable questions about why we don't use it anymore. Cold is not just uncomfortable. Cold kills. In the Viking Age, roughly 800 to 1100 AD, Scandinavia was a frozen battlefield. Long winters, short days, brutal storms, firewood was scarce, heat escaped easily, and a single mistake meant death. So here's the question. How did Viking families survive months of sub-zero darkness, without central heating, without insulation as we know it, and without burning through forests just to stay alive? The answer isn't brute force, it's intelligence. Most ancient cultures heated their homes the same way, an open fire in the center of the room. Simple, wasteful, deadly, smoke inhalation, heat loss, constant fuel consumption. But Vikings noticed something crucial. Fire doesn't just heat air, it heats mass, stone, earth, clay. So instead of chasing warmth that vanished into smoke and wind, they trapped it. Viking longhouses used a system where fire was burned slowly, often under stone slabs or within thick earthen structures. The heat soaked into the materials, and then radiated outward for hours, sometimes days after the fire went out. No flames, no smoke, just silent, stored warmth. This wasn't a fireplace. It was a thermal battery. Archaeologists later found something strange. In Viking settlements, there were stone channels beneath floors, clay-lined cavities, carefully designed airflow paths, not random, not primitive. This was early radiant floor heating, centuries before the Romans perfected hypocausts. Vikings adapted similar principles for survival, but optimized them for cold, not luxury. The floor stayed warm, the walls stayed warm, bodies stayed alive. And here's the unsettling part. The system used far less fuel than open fires, which means once you built it, you didn't need to keep feeding it. Fast forward centuries. Europe is at war. Resources are limited. Fuel shortages are everywhere. Armies freeze, civilians suffer. Suddenly, military engineers start looking backward instead of forward. They rediscover ancient heating methods, radiant systems, thermal mass storage, underground heat channels, and the results are staggering. Barracks stay warm with fractional fuel use. Bunkers retain heat long after fires are extinguished. Hospitals operate with minimal energy input. The technology works too well. So well that it threatens industries built on constant consumption. Coal, oil, gas. And that's when things quietly change. After the war, something strange happens. Radiant heating research, especially low-energy mass-based systems, gets absorbed into military standards, industrial applications, and government infrastructure. But civilians, they're pushed toward active heating. Furnaces that must run constantly. Boilers that need steady fuel. Systems that never stop consuming. Why? Because a heating method that stores warmth for days doesn't generate recurring profit, and in some regions regulations quietly appear. Building codes that discourage thermal mass, restrictions on underground fire chambers, insurance rules against passive heat storage, not banned loudly, just designed out of existence. Here's the question you're not supposed to ask. If ancient people, without computers, without electricity, could heat homes efficiently in frozen wastelands, why can't we? Why do modern houses lose heat in hours? Why do we depend on constant fuel flow? Why is passive heating treated like a niche hobby instead of a standard? The knowledge wasn't lost. It was set aside. Because systems that don't require constant input don't fit systems built on constant extraction. Vikings didn't think in terms of comfort. They thought in terms of survival economics. Use the least energy. Waste nothing. Store what you can't replace. Their heating systems mirrored their worldview. Slow heat instead of fast flames. Stored warmth instead of constant fire. Community spaces instead of isolated rooms. Heat was shared, not sold. Energy prices rise. Winters get harsher. Grids fail. Fuel becomes political, and suddenly people are rediscovering old ideas. Thermal mass homes, earth-sheltered buildings, radiant floors, passive heat storage, ideas that sound innovative but are actually ancient. And once you see that, you realize the future might not be ahead of us. It might be behind us. The real conspiracy isn't that Vikings had better technology, it's that we chose not to keep it. Not because it failed, not because it was dangerous, but because a society built on endless consumption cannot tolerate systems that end the need to consume. So the next time you feel cold in a modern home, remember this. There were people 1,000 years ago who solved this problem already. And maybe the question isn't how they did it. Maybe the question is why we were told to forget.